And welcome back to our CD9 debate with former Phoenix Mayor Greg Stanton and Dr. Steve Ferrara. Let's start with a yes or no question. Would you have voted, starting with you, Steve Ferrara, would you have voted for the Trump tax cuts last year and the tax cut extension passed by the House last month? Yes or
yes.
no? Yes. Greg Stanton?
No.
No. Greg Stanton, have the tax cuts been a boon to Phoenix's economy?
No, unfortunately, what happened with the tax cuts last year was very dangerous. We added $1.8 trillion to the federal deficit. You have people close to the president, Larry Kudlow, and also Paul Ryan, who's indicated many times that because of the increase of our federal deficit, we now have to look at cuts to Social Security and Medicare. I will protect Social Security and Medicare. I think we actually need smarter tax reform that focuses more on the middle class and small businesses. What happened last year in Congress was the exact opposite. It benefited mostly the wealthiest people. Almost 90% of the benefit went to the wealthiest people. It benefited the largest corporations, and they used it mostly for stock buybacks. Middle-class Americans did not see any wage increases. The trickle-down philosophy under it didn't work, and I would have gone in a different direction.
So none of the corporations here or moving here have benefited in any way from the money taxes they saved through this package?
In Congress, my North Star, if you will, when it comes to tax reform will be better supporting middle-class families, better supporting small business, and I think that tax plan is a dangerous tax plan because of the massive increase in the federal deficit now puts at risk Social Security and Medicare. And Larry Kudlow and others, the top advisors of the president, have openly talked about the need to cut these important programs. I would go in a different direction.
What about that piece? That's widely agreed upon, that here it's a massive tax cut, but future generations are paying for it. Our debt is hitting historic levels, deficits way up.
Correct. And
why was this a good idea?
Because it has supercharged the economy. More people are in jobs. We have historic lows for unemployment for African Americans, for Latin Americans, for Hispanics. Our unemployment rate is at a 50-year low.
Yet the deficit and debt are going up, which is kind of unusual when an economy is strong.
And I would also say that that's based on static scoring. So we have yet to see, because the Atlanta Fed is about to report that our GDP growth will be 4.6%. Under the Obama administration, we never broke 2.
Okay, it's 1 quarter. You think we can sustain 4.6% for quarter after quarter?
That's what people are saying right now.
Hasn't been done.
And also, we haven't had unemployment rates this low in 50 years. What Greg wants to do is raise taxes, kill the economy, put people back out of work, go back to the secular stagnation. I believe in people. I believe in what America can do. What he wants to do is follow Nancy Pelosi. He wants to raise taxes. He's already had a fundraiser with her out here. His vote is sewn up for Nancy Pelosi. So he wants to just kill the economy. I want to grow the economy.
Let's talk about immigration. Yes or no, would you vote to build the president's wall on the border?
No.
No. Greg Stanton?
No, I don't support the Trump wall. No.
Let's talk about policy. The big issue right now are all the migrants flocking to the border and the Trump administration's inability to manage that. Is this a failure by the Trump administration?
It's a failure by numerous administrations, and Greg is sending out a mail.
This zero tolerance policy was put in place by the Trump administration.
Which I don't agree with. I absolutely have no. I do not support separating children from their families. In fact, I'll tell you what I did about it. When I was the Navy's chief medical officer in 2014, we had an epidemic of children also on the border that were in facilities, and they were sick, and I actually did something about it. I sent pediatricians, nurses, Navy corpsmen to Ventura County and to the Texas border to render medical aid because Health and Human Services couldn't do it under the last administration. So it's this. I don't support ever separating children from their families. I would never vote for that. I have never supported the wall. I support what I'm on record is supporting a physical barrier where it makes sense, electronic surveillance, and boots on the ground. Greg doesn't even support a physical barrier.
Let's hear Greg Stanton supports.
All right, good. Look, we have a broken immigration system. It's really unfortunate that we haven't been able to pass a bipartisan bill. As you know, Senator McCain and Senator Flake led the way on a bipartisan bill just a few years ago. It passed in a bipartisan way, the U.S. Senate. It couldn't even get a hearing in the Republican Congress led by Paul Ryan and Kevin McCarthy. We need to act in a bipartisan way. I do support the general outline that was in Senator McCain's bill, which did involve border security using technology, which is a more efficient way of doing border security. It did support more boots on the ground, and it did have an earned path to citizenship, and it Senate did have a Clean Dream Act, so these young people that are so motivated, so talented, can take their rightful place as leaders in our community. The outline is there. We just need to go and get it. But what the Trump administration has done, separating those children from their families at the border, can you imagine the trauma, the lifetime trauma of those children, and the hurting United States standing in the globe? That's not acceptable. We need finally a bipartisan solution on the issue of immigration.
Last question for you, sir. Do you support a path to citizenship for the Dreamers?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay, we got to move on from there. Good discussion. When we come back, how the candidates would deal with Phoenix's looming water crisis and more hot button issues.